Yeah, don't forget that live interview with Andrew Hastie in London. That'll be coming up soon. We'll make connection with him in the next little while. But in the meantime, we've seen it here with horrible threats, and there's been a shocking increase in anti-Semitic attacks, not just in the Middle East, but in Europe and the US as well. In one case, a group of petrified Jewish students were trapped in a college library in New York while pro-Palestine protesters yelled and banged on the windows. Have a look at this. Just another instance of shocking, unforgivable stuff that's happening right around the world. I spoke with Kristin Tate earlier, who explained the rising tide of anti-Semitism.
Oh, it's so disturbing, Chris. You know, this is what happens when you have a generation of bored, useless, and overcoddled snowflakes who don't believe in God and they want to feel like they are part of something. These are the same young morons who were out on the streets rioting for BLM a couple years ago, and now they are willing to jump on the anti-Semitic bandwagon to riot or just protest in some cases against Israel. These same people who are out there, I guarantee you, Chris, if you ask these young people anything about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, they couldn't tell you anything. They have no idea why they are out there. This is very dark stuff that's going on all around the world, particularly in Western countries right now.
Yeah, the thing is, Kristin, these protests seem to be so devoid of facts. They seem to be based in ignorance. And what really upsets me is we don't see people out there protesting against the atrocities that Hamas committed against more than 1,400 Israelis. And they're not protesting either for the more than 200 hostages that are still being held by Hamas.
Because people are terrified. People are so scared to go out there and support the victims in Israel because they know that they will be met with a violent mob that wants to hurt them. It is sickening, Chris. It is so sickening seeing these Americans going around ripping down posters of babies and children and the elderly being held hostage. These useful idiots are supporting terrorists, and it should make every American citizen and every good person around the world sick. And I don't support cancel culture. We all know that as conservatives, we don't support cancel culture. But you know what? Good for the corporations who are rescinding job offers from a lot of these college kids who are being outed as supporting Hamas openly. They deserve to have their job offers rescinded and be publicly shamed for their behavior. It is disturbing and sickening.
It is indeed. Let's move to the presidential contest, and Mike Pence has withdrawn his candidacy. Let's have a listen to him.
Now, I'm leaving this campaign, but let me promise you, I will never leave the fight for conservative values, and I will never stop fighting to elect principled Republican leaders to every office in the land.
Yeah, Donald Trump's former vice president out of the race. What does this mean for the contest, Kristin?
Well, it means all 6 of his supporters are very devastated to hear that he's dropped out. I mean, he just had no constituency. Unfortunately for Mike Pence, he's a very nice guy. He's a good Christian. But when he turned on Trump, that just really doomed his political future, because right now, Trump is the beating heart of the Republican Party and conservative voters. And there's just, it seems like there's no candidate, no matter how strong they are, who's going to change that. Some of these candidates might end up endorsing Trump when they drop out, which would be bad news for DeSantis. But, you know, Mike Pence didn't have a whole lot of support, so this probably won't shake up the race too much.
Let's have a look at the other side. And there's this fascinating exchange where Kamala Harris is giving an interview, and she's asked about the fact that if Joe Biden doesn't run again, if he has to withdraw, as people like me are expecting him to do, she was asked why she's not seen as the logical next candidate. Have a look at her intriguing response.
Well, first of all, I'm not going to engage in that hypothetical because Joe Biden is very much alive and running for re-election. So
but you do know, I mean, that is a concern and a legitimate concern, I would say.
I hear from a lot of different people a lot of different things, but let me just tell you, I'm focused on the job. I truly am. Our democracy is on the line, Bill. And I frankly, in my head do not have time for parlor games when we have a president who is running for re-election. That's it.
Well, she's just so unconvincing, isn't she, Kristin?
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, I've totally come around to your opinion, Chris, that Joe Biden is going to drop out. Of course, they can't give any hint of that right now because it would make him a very lame duck president. But hey, let's hope she's telling the truth, because I'm a conservative and I would love to have the Republican candidate running against Joe Biden than someone like Gavin Newsom. But Kamala Harris realizes that she has no chance at being the nominee if he drops out. She is politically toxic and so dislikable, and the Democrats are looking for a way to get rid of her and replace her with someone else on the ticket if Joe Biden does refuse to bow out of this race.
Hey, speaking of Gavin Newsom, our Prime Minister, our former Prime Minister, when he was running for re-election unsuccessfully at their last election, Scott Morrison, famously tumbled over a young kid in a game of soccer on a campaign event. Let's have a look at Gavin Newsom doing something similar on a basketball court. Familiar scenes to Australian viewers, Kristin. Will that do Newsom any harm at all? He's so khaki-footed.
Probably not. But hey, this is very symbolic to what Gavin Newsom does to the California taxpayer. He pushes him down, knocks him to the floor, and then, acts like, hey, that was no big deal. We're friends, right? But yeah, I don't think this will do anything to harm him. If anything, it kind of makes him look, personable. He kind of hugged the kid. So I don't think this is any big deal, but there is definitely some symbolism there.
The symbolism. I thought you'd have a line on it, Kristin. Thanks so much for joining us again.
Thank you, as always, Chris.